First, we had a lot of sleet. It never really melted off, and now another round of winter weather is slamming the Triad. After the storm, if you don't take a few steps to clean up around the house, stuff could start breaking down, costing you money and time in repairs. Same thing goes for your car. Even your body is at risk after the storm. Over the years, 2 Wants to Know has talked with a lot of experts to bring you helpful tricks for staying safe and protecting your property. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to share some of our best pieces of advice for the snow and ice. While we wait for the sun to heat up the rest of the ice, TRIAD repairmen want to light a fire under you to make sure your house is not damaged.
One of the things we want to look at is the roof. Let's look at the roof. Shingles, if you have a shingled roof, shingles really can be dislodged by snow or ice. So we want to make sure you don't have any missing shingles.
Contractor Tom Garcia says you also want to walk around the house and check out your gutters.
As that snow or ice comes off the roof, it can literally push the gutter system away from the house. That, of course, will allow water to go in between the gutter and the house and cause great damage.
And look down at the pavement for any cracks in the concrete.
What can happen is that the rain or snow gets in here and then it freezes. It causes it to expand. Eventually, a small crack becomes a really large crack. So what you want to do is just clean it out with a brush. And then any of the big box stores will sell a product that you can pour right in here. It'll seal it up and smooth itself out. You know, spending $10 on a little concrete fill is a heck of a lot better than thousands of dollars on a new driveway.
The snow, the sleet, they're slowly melting away on most of our streets, but what might cost you the really big bucks later are the chunks of that frozen stuff that's on your landscaping and the flowers that you're hoping to see in the spring.
Just like we have with our little evergreen here, the big piece of snow, the weight of that is really going to sort of push down on the root system of that plant, and therefore it's going to cause issue in the springtime. So really leave the snow where it lies unless you have some that mound up like this.
Once the snow melts, check the soil. If it's dry, water those plants, especially the evergreens, to help prevent winter dehydration. If branches on bushes or trees are broken, use sharp shears to make a clean cut, but wait until later in the winter or early spring to prune for shaping. Experts say you should never walk on frozen lawns as it damages the grass. And remember, when you rinse off the ice melt on your walkway and driveway, don't spray it towards your plants and grass.
As you're getting back out and about on the roads, you know to clean off the windshield, the hood, the top of your car, get all that snow gone. But there's something else that you should check out too before hitting the streets. Most winter driving dangers are easy to spot on the roads. Ice, snow, slush. But Justin ran into one you can't see.
Stopped here because I knew they would be open and they have free air.
He was back out after the storm.
Get little snacks for my girlfriend and whatnot.
When a warning light caught his attention, cold weather can drain tire pressure fast.
When it gets cold, the rubber in your tire and the metal in your rim, they contract at different paces.
You can expect to lose about 1 or 2 psi for every 10 degrees that it drops outside. So making sure you stay on top of the tire pressure is extremely important.
Every year, about 600 people are killed and more than 33,000 others injured in crashes linked to underinflated tires.
It is a very, very bad idea to drive anywhere on a tire with too low air. You leave yourself open to the possibility of a blowout or other tire damage.
You might have also heard this advice. Letting air out of your tires can help with traction on icy roads.
If you lower the pressure, then the traction will be improved a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, because the contact of the tire, the surface of the tire will contact more with the surface of the terrain.
But experts say it doesn't work where rubber meets the road.
It's not recommended for asphalt roads or concrete roads because it will damage the shoulders or the side of the tires.
So if you want to take some pressure off of winter driving, start by making sure there's enough air in your tires.
The salt and brine mixtures on the road before the storm, well, they are lingering. Maybe not on the roads anymore, but definitely on your car. Today, we're joined by Patrick Olson with Carfax, and we're talking car care for the winter months. We just had a whole bunch of brine on our car. Do we race to get our car washed this week?
I would say don't race. The reality is you want to wash that stuff off your car for sure, but a couple of things to keep in mind. it's best to wash your car when it's 40 degrees or higher, because what you don't want to do is get water and ice in your door jambs and have things get stuck. You don't want your the windows in the car to get stuck in a position or to crack or to break. So 40 is better. Now, that being said, you don't have to wait till it gets back to 40 or 50 to do it. But if you're going to wash your car at freezing 32 degrees or above, make sure that you can go around everywhere and carefully dry everything off. You absolutely want to get that salt off your car, but if it sits there 1 or 2 weeks, your car is going to be fine. If you let it sit there forever, that's a whole different story.
So what does that salt or briner do over lengths of time?
Yeah, if you leave the salt on your car, eventually it's going to eat into the paint of your car, and then beyond that, it's going to eat into the metal, and that will weaken the frame of your car, which means that if you get into an accident down the road in a year or two, your car could respond very badly. The metal won't hold up as well as the automaker expects it to. And frankly, the value of your car will decline quite a bit. So it's important to, whether it's salt now, brine now, mud in the summer, whatever, you want to keep your car relatively clean so that you can extend its life.
We're hearing about a lot of people who, got into fender benders or something of that nature. Now they're taking the car to the shop. What should we know when we're bringing our car to the shop so that we don't get surprised by any kind of bill?
Yeah, anytime you got to take your car into the shop to get estimates on work, particularly body work, make it clear to the shop owner that, hey, give me your estimate of how much it's going to cost before you do anything to this car, and I want to see it in writing. Secondly, what happens a lot with car damage is that the mechanic will find more damage underneath what they can see initially. It's very common. They're not being shady, but what you want to do is make clear to them, you don't want them to start any work until they have cleared with you the cost of that work, so that you know, A, what are you actually doing, and B, how much are you charging me, so I can see, are there other mechanics who are going to maybe charge less? The other reality is you are in the same situation as hundreds of other people in your area. They may not have the parts on hand right when you need them, so you may need some patience.
All right, that's interesting, because we've had like a part shortage or whatever for a while, like since COVID and then all that other kind of stuff. So that adds into it. When you say, sometimes if you don't think that they're giving you a fair price and you want to bring it somewhere else, that could mean that you're towing your car somewhere else.
It could, and you've got to weigh that. You've also got to weigh the inconvenience of being without your car for an extended period of time. So these are all things that you as the owner have to weigh. But I would absolutely tell people, don't start the work on my car until you tell me what it's going to cost and how long you think it's going to take. And to be honest, when the snow and ice hits your area, it also stops all those trucks and trains from getting stuff to your dealer to replace it. So it's really a mess.
Yeah, I like the idea of saying that, even if you have to record you saying it to them or putting it on text with them so everybody knows that that has been said, and getting that estimate in writing, which I think so often we don't do, because we just say, just tell me and we'll just go over it by phone. Yeah. It's
worth the extra diligence. You'll have a much better idea of how it's going to affect your budget.
All right. Patrick Olson from Carfax, thank you so much for your time and expertise. If you missed any of this, it'll be in the Who Wants to Know section of our website.
Lifting up the car can be a real downer when you see the problem.
You can see where I'm shining in here. There's a lot of salt all the way up underneath the car here. And it would be great to run this through a car wash. It's got an under car wash to get some of that off. And what I see is people who don't do that, their brake lines, their calipers, their brake components, stuff like that rust up a lot.
Jay Dalton Auto Tech says you want to wash the car within 3 weeks of the storm.
I see how dirty the brakes get. The brakes get really, really crummy.
Consumer Reports adds it's worth springing for the high-end wash with all the extras. Plus, you want to wipe down those backup cameras.
All the salt, spray, snow, and road grime that gets onto a vehicle in the wintertime could obscure the radar and the cameras and the different sensors that you use for your safety systems. And while it doesn't mean that they won't work all the time, they may not be there when you most need them.
Doing all this could save you thousands of dollars in repairs down the road.
So it's pretty important to get the the bottom of your car washed out.
Is making itself known, and if you don't have to go anywhere, great. But if you do, I gotta tell you, this right here, this is really just the minimum of the scraping that should happen if you're going to get on the road. And I'm not just talking about the windows.
All the salt, spray, snow, and road grime that gets onto a vehicle in the wintertime could obscure the radar and the cameras and the different sensors that you use for your safety systems. And while it doesn't mean that they won't work all the time, they may not be there when you most need them.
There are three main areas you want to make sure that you clean off well. First and foremost, your backup camera, right above your license plate. The more eyes you have, the better. Now, if your car has forward collision or lane departure warnings, those sensors, they're on the windshield. And if your car has parking assist, you want to wipe away any debris from the bumper sensors. Rear body panels, they house the blind spot monitoring radars. The hardest part, though, about driving in the snow, maybe just getting out. There is a trick to digging out without making yourself frustrated and exhausted. 2 wants to know. Talk to the experts to help get you on the road. Remember the word CATS. C. Clear out the snow from around the tires and the direction that you're going. A. Add traction underneath the front and back of all tires. T. Tire deflation. Not a whole lot, just a little to give you better traction. And S, straighten your wheels. It's easier for the car to get a good grip that way.
Whether you're getting yourself ready or trying to teach a new driver in your family to think ahead.
Making sure that you take your time going, don't go too fast. You never know when there might be black ice.
There are a few things you can do to put yourself and your car in the best scenario to handle the cold.
It's a simple thing you can do.
Hector Revelorio is a mechanic at Adonde's Auto Service in South Charlotte. He says we should all check 3 things before Friday. First, check your tires. Cold weather causes your pressure to drop slightly.
It goes low, you can have a flat tire.
Tires should be between 30 and 35 psi. When they're low, even by a little, they're less resilient and could tear or be punctured. Next, check your battery. If you see any weird fluid or built-up rust, you can be heading towards disaster.
When your body starts leaking, they can get froze. So it's one of the things that can damage your alternator.
And a bad alternator or head gasket?
It's a big fix. It's a big fix. It can be expensive.
Finally, make sure you're up to date on oil changes and check that your antifreeze is all topped off.
It's one of the things you have to keep an eye on your cooling.
Check this out. These are pictures of a Greensboro police car. The windshield just battered in, and why? Because ice was flying off another driver's vehicle.
On the highway, because they're going so fast, and the vehicles heat up, and once that bottom layer gets heated up, and it forces the ice to just fall right off. And a lot of times it's huge sheets, and they go straight to the windshield, the front of the vehicle, and they just cause damage.
Look at these pictures sent in by a driver who was hit with flying ice on I-85 in Greensboro. The work truck windshield, it is smashed all on the driver's side. Thankfully, he was okay and was able to get his truck to the side of the road safely.
A lot of people have dash cams. If you're able to get the recording from the dash cam, if you're able to get the tag for the vehicle that it fell off of, that would be great as well. But we also want everybody to be safe. So if that can't be done in a safe manner, then that's something that we can work around.
Drivers are urged to make a police report. That doesn't always mean an officer will come out. Many jurisdictions have an online system where you can report it so you can use it for your insurance. A winter storm is on the way. Your house, the driveway, the steps, it all could be covered with snow, sleet, some kind of wintry mix. Getting out of your house, well, when your steps or your porch look like this one over here, all iced over, it can land you in the ER, which is why putting down some ice melt of some kind is key. But when do you do it? I looked at the directions on my bag of ice melt, and it says sprinkle onto the surface area to be treated. But is that before or after the snowfall? Who wants to know? Went to the experts.
Most of the time on ice melt, they tell you really to wait till everything has fallen. There's a lot of people that will go ahead and put it out. You can really do either one. I tend personally, I usually wait until it's through falling. I typically wait till it stops falling and go out there, and usually within 45 minutes to an hour, it has begun to slush up and everything, and that makes it easier for you to get to with a good flat shovel or something like that and start scooping it up and getting it off that area so the sun and the air can get to it and begin to dry it up so it doesn't refreeze on you.
You're trying to avoid this, and the bag of ice melt tells you to do that to prevent refreezing. It also has a warning about what the ice melt can do if you leave it on your driveway.
Over time, it will break down the concrete in your driveway. Doesn't bother rock. You do need to get it off your concrete steps or your driveway. It does need to be rinsed off. And if you have a garden that's down from where it's going to be, when this runs off, it could damage your soil.
Well, what if you don't have ice melt, but by the looks of your schedule, you're not going to get to it either? Well, Laura Red says a mixture of rubbing alcohol and dishwashing liquid and water can do the trick. I've got the directions in the Who Wants to Know section.
To understand why pipes burst, we have to look at water under a microscope. When it freezes into ice, the molecules spread apart. They're bigger, so water can grow up to 9%. That's why you're supposed to leave the faucets dripping. So as the water grows, it has somewhere to go. But if that faucet is switched off, the water expands in the pipe and causes a crack.
Right now, you want to leave your faucets at a slight drip. It doesn't have to be a continuous run. It will increase the water bill, but a higher water bill is a lot better than damage to the home. We recommend to turn on a cold faucet to let it drip, and then to find the fixture furthest away from the water heater and turn the hot water on a slight drip at that. That way you have water moving throughout the entire house.
And Joe Weevil with Cardinal Plumbing and Drain Services says there's one more step to get prepared now.
Freezing pipes, of course, that's going to be the number one call that we're going to get over the next few days. And every homeowner should make sure to know where their main shutoff water valve is located at in case they are to experience that problem.
When water pipes burst on the road, well, the cleanup looks a whole lot like this, but when it happens in your house, it often looks like this. The drywall has to be cut out, the pipe has to be replaced. It's not a quick fix, and it can be costly. Here's the good news. Pipes bursting due to freezing are covered by insurance.
You would expect that claim to be paid minus your deductible. So you want to know what your deductible is. If you have a $500 deductible, then the insurance company is going to pay for damages over $500. Same thing for $1,000 or $2,500. Some of our customers have even chosen a $5,000 deductible.
When you have a burst pipe on the inside, you could have water in a room that you didn't expect, like a bedroom, for instance. First and foremost, you want to stop the damage. Shut the water to the house off. You're going to take pictures of the damage. You're going to start the cleanup process and the drying process. You're going to want to call a professional, most likely a plumber, and then you make your insurance claim. The snow and the sleet, it stopped falling several days ago, but still, this is what the sidewalk looks like at my coworker's apartment complex in Greensboro. And this over here, this is the parking lot. The walkways, the parking lot, nothing's been touched. It's a slushy, icy, and dangerous mess. North Carolina requires a landlord to provide what's called a fit premises. In fact, the statute reads, keep all common areas of the premises in safe condition. What it doesn't spell out is a timeline or how to make that happen.
There's no law you have to plow. There's no law you have to put down ice melt. But the law is you have to keep common areas reasonably safe and passable. Landlords are allowed a reasonable time and reasonable expectations depending on the condition.
Attorney David Daggett says reasonable isn't defined. It depends on the circumstances of what another landlord would reasonably do under similar circumstances. But that doesn't mean that you, the tenant, can't make a reasonable request for information about the conditions and when they will be fixed. It can be as simple as a text or an email to the office manager or the property owners.
They can contact the regional or local housing authority. They can, complain. Document those complaints in writing. At some point, you could be entitled to some abatement of rent or other charges if the landlord is not doing their duty.
In some triad cities, there's an additional snow ordinance. For example, this is the city of Greensboro. It has an ordinance that talks about the removal of ice and snow. It even says that the landlord should remove it by 10 o'clock each day. I got to tell you, though, this ordinance really has no teeth. No city department enforces this. Snow removal is seen as a private matter between landlord and tenant. So here's my suggestion to you. Get with those other tenants and make some noise. You need to email, you need to text your office manager or your property owner. You need to put those complaints in writing. These next few days, you're going to be doing this, turning up the thermostat. And that may mean that next month, you're going to be seeing it in your bill. If you're looking for a way to save money on heat, here's what's not to do.
Homeowners would just turn the vents off. These systems are designed to move a certain amount of airflow, and if we're choking down that system in any way, then we're starving it, which will cause breakdowns, higher utility costs.
Number one, do not close the vents in your rooms that you're not using. It doesn't make the house any warmer and it just hurts the system. Number two, open your blinds when it's sunny to let the warmth in. And number three, change your air filters. It's no longer just once a year or twice a year. The Barrico experts say check and see what your air filter looks like every 30 days.
One of the biggest causes for breakdowns is airflow. And if the system is not able to properly breathe, then you'll notice that the system is not going to run properly. It's kind of like your car. You know, if you're driving down the road and a bag flies up and catches in front of you on your radiator, you'll start to notice that your car starts to run hot. Same thing with the air conditioning system.
Now, you may not need to change your air filter every 30 days, but you do need to check to make sure that it doesn't look like the one over here, right? A good rule of thumb, every first of the month, just check those air filters. Space heaters need to be plugged into the wall, not an extension cord, not a power strip, even if it is a heavy-duty one. Extension cords and strips are not designed to handle the high electric current of a space heater. I want you to look at this picture right here. That strip or cord, well, it gets overheated and it melts, and that, of course, is when the fire starts. Space heaters, of course, can be safe, but they have to be used in the right way. Again, you want to plug heaters directly into a wall outlet and keep objects at least 3 feet away. That's beds, that's curtains, your Christmas tree, your laundry basket. You need a 3-foot circle all around that heater. And if you're not in the room, you need to shut your space heater off. Don't leave it on to keep the space warm.
We want to make sure we keep them away from anything that might be combustible. We want to make sure we keep those 3 feet away. We want to make sure that we shut them off when we go to bed at night.
Statistics show that space heaters are involved in 1/3 of all home heating fires. But the #1 cause of home fires is?
Unattended cooking is actually the #1 cause under the cooking fires. And we see that perhaps with shift people who, they work a second shift, they come home, they're hungry, they're tired. They put the food on the stove and then they fall asleep.
All right, got a fire on the stove? What you want to do is find the pot lid or a cookie sheet and then cover that pot and then turn off the heat. What you don't want to do is to pour water on it. I know that may be your reaction, but that is the worst thing to do, especially if it's a grease fire. Water just causes a flashover like this, makes the flames just spread. This kind of fire can burn a house down. I want you to look at this. 2 Wants to Know, with the help of the fire department, tested out the stovetop fire stop. The device has a magnet and attaches to the hood of your stove. When it senses the flame on your stove, it releases a special powder and it douses the flames. A pair of stovetop fire stops goes for about $60.
The lights are out, it's time to hunker down. The first thing you want to do is put towels along the bottom of all the doors and windows to keep cold air from sneaking in. Then make sure every door in the house is closed. Next, it's time to pick your command center for the storm. Try to pick a bedroom with the fewest walls to the outside and windows. And speaking of those windows, during the day you'll want the blinds up and open to let in as much sunlight as possible. But at night, cover the window with a towel or blanket. For extra warmth, set up a tent inside the room. A blanket fort can work too. That smaller area helps lock in your body heat. And you can do that with clothing also. You'll want at least 3 layers, an outer coat, a sweater, and an inner base like an undershirt and long johns. Avoid cotton for this base because it will soak up your sweat and make you more cold. And make sure to avoid alcohol. It might make you flush, but it really lowers your body temperature and impairs your ability to shiver, which is one of the best ways your body has to warm itself up. Ben Briscoe, 2 Wants to Know.
The change in temperature means a change in what you wear, but not all fabrics keep you warm. There's a trick to layering for the ultimate warmth. For this, let's take a look. You should wear 3 different layers. The inner layer should be wool or silk or synthetic to keep moisture away from your body. This is the thing. Do not wear cotton. Cotton t-shirt does not work. The middle layer should be wool or synthetic to provide insulation. The outer layer can be a warm jacket. Now this can be your fleece or your cotton. That protects you from the cold and the wind and the overheating. Both adults and children need to wear cold weather accessories like hats, scarves, gloves. If you start wearing feeling too hot, you can always lose a layer or 2. Also, they say don't ignore shivering. That's the first sign that your body is losing heat. Parents, I know that you want to keep your kids warm and you want to bundle them up, but you need to be aware of the danger of putting your kids in their car seat with their coat on. Consumer Reports says kids should never be wearing puffy coats in their car seats because it can prevent the harnesses from being tightened incorrectly, which can then be dangerous if you're in a crash.
In a crash, if he was still wearing his coat would compress, all of that puffiness would compress, leaving this extra room, which gives him additional room to move and potentially move outside the safety of his car seat, which would increase his risk of injury.
So what should you do instead? Consumer Reports recommends securing your child into the seat and then putting a blanket or coat on top of the harness. For older kids, you can put their coat sleeves on backwards after they're already harnessed in. Brr, the cold temperatures outside absolutely means that your furnace is working, right? The outside air, it's warmed up, and at the same time, it takes the moisture out of the air. So while it's maybe, let's say 28 degrees and 41% humidity outside, inside your house, you could be looking at 68 degrees and 10% humidity. That's a big difference than the outside numbers. So here's why the humidity is worth watching. The ideal home humidity is considered by many to be between 40 and 60%. When the air is too humid, mold, bacteria, dust mites grow and allergies are a problem. When the air is too dry, viruses, bacteria, respiratory infections spread and allergies are a problem.
2 Wants to Know shows you how to solve the problem. Humidifiers cannot prevent colds and flu, but they do go a long way in helping your body fight off those nasty infections by keeping the air moist. In this climate-controlled chamber, Consumer Reports runs humidifiers overnight and tracks how many gallons of water each emits. After many hours of testing, CR is recommending this Vicks humidifier for smaller rooms. It's just $36.
It's really important to keep your humidifier clean because you don't want a buildup of gunk inside that could spread microbes through the air and possibly get you sick.
To keep your humidifier fresh, always follow the manufacturer's instructions, which typically include daily and even weekly maintenance. You also want to position your humidifier on a flat surface, raised at least 2 feet above the floor. This allows for more moisture to dissipate into the air.
Every 40 seconds, someone in the United States has a stroke, and when the temperature drops, I got to tell you, the risk goes up.
So even if you're not clearing like a snow-covered driveway or digging out your car, cold weather can cause high blood pressure. And that's a key risk factor for strokes and for heart attacks.
So when you pull out that blanket at work, just tell your coworkers, it's doctor's orders. Seriously.
Staying bundled up so your core temperature is higher is good. Most of it because if you're cold and you're shivering, that puts a lot of stress on the body.
If you're exerting yourself outdoors, you want to dress in layers. You want to keep that core, the torso, warm so that you can keep blood flowing to your extremities.
If you have problems with the circulation to the legs, making sure that your legs are well bundled up so that there's enough circulation getting to your feet.
All right, it's also important to know that the signs of a stroke, the catchphrase is be fast. First and foremost, balance loss, eyesight changes, facial drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. And if you have any of those or you see someone having any of those, it is time to call 911.
Doctors say every 1 minute that passes, 2 million brain cells die. So do not hesitate to call for help immediately.
And the biggest piece of advice I've learned from covering snowstorms across the Triad for years now: practice patience, especially with yourself. Look, when the snow and ice comes down, things are not like normal, but we can all make it through, especially if you're kind to yourself and others. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.